Hello, this is an Archipelago tutorial for the sewer members. If you're here watching and you're not a sewer member, that's really cool. Alright, so I'm going to explain how Archipelago works and how to set up your own Archipelago game so you can test the games that you're playing, and how to find games and everything in between. So this is the website, archipelago.gg. Easiest way to get here, just type that. Archipelago is a word after all. If you type it on Google, you're going to find some other dog shit. So, archipelago.gg. So, the first thing I recommend doing is joining the Discord. So, do that, and I will show the Discord right now. So, this is the Discord, and you just want to select everything here. You basically want to make sure you have as many options in the server available to you as possible from the beginning. So you don't miss anything, you can access all the things you need to. And I think that's it. Just click finish, and boom, we're here. If you want to learn the games you can play, I recommend going to APWorld Index. And this is every single game that's on Archipelago, that's on the website, and on the Discord. So there's separate types of Archipelago games. There's Archipelago games that are pre-built into the website. In other words, they're like, they're pushed. Like, everything their own project, right? Everyone makes their own works. Not every Archipelago game is created equally because everyone works on their own time and stuff like that, and dev time, right? They push changes into the GitHub, and then it gets eventually accepted into the main website, and you get this whole list right here. But that doesn't mean that these games are not playable, because that's the whole point, right? These games are playable, and there are loads of games that I'm sure someone can find at least one game they probably like in here. I hope anyway. And you should be able to go, okay, well, I want to play Dark Souls Remastered, so you can click this to take you to the Dark Souls text channel, which gives you all the information on the game and people talking about how it works, giving advice and feedback and stuff. However, we're looking for how to set this up. So what you do is you click the pin messages, and the pin messages has a bunch of stuff. You want to kind of just read through it, because every pin message section is going to be different. So you check the pin messages of the channel you go to, or the thread, and look for probably one that talks about the instructions. So it's going to say it somewhere, and it'll say, these are the instructions. Sometimes you'll have to open up a different link that leads to instructions. Some games are like that. They force you to click like a GitHub link, and then the instructions will be listed on the GitHub page. But no matter what, you should be able to find the instructions through a pinned message in the game, on the channel, on the thread you're looking at. So in Dark Souls 1 case, I just click here, and then I click this assets button, and I get presented with the DSAP zip, which is the mod for the game, and DSR APWorld. And what an APWorld is essentially just it's like an add-on, right? So instead of games being on the website, which you can just play through the website, you set the settings on the website, and then you generate your settings through the website. In order to generate your settings and tweak them through a game that's not official, you have to download the APWorld and install it to your Archipelago setup. So, how do we get Archipelago setup? Well, there's a GitHub link in the description, and this leads to setup Archipelago 6.2 exe. This is the latest development build. Eventually, this is going to be a new version, but for now, and hopefully by the time when this video comes out, this should still be this version. So you download it, and I already have it in my downloads folder. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And we've got accept the agreement. Download sprites if you're playing Link to the Past. Probably not, though. Click next. Just click install. I don't need to do this. I've already done it. So, now that you've got Archipelago, and now that you know how unofficial games work, and how the games on the website more or less work, it's pretty simple, right? You go here, and for example, Hollow Knight, I can click an options page, and I'm taken to a page that shows all the options I can randomize for the game. So, let me quickly explain this. So, what does randomizing certain things mean? Well, in randomizers, there's these things they're called checks, right? So when you pick up an item and you go to a location that has an item, is what I mean. When you get when you perform the task that gets you the item, that's called getting a check. So if I randomize the charms in Hollow Knight, every single charm location in the original game is going to be replaced with a randomized item, and you getting that location, you go there and do that thing that gets that item, that's a check. So instead of, if I hit randomize charms, it's at the yes. If I pick up an item at the location where the charm is, I'm going to get a randomized item instead in the multi-world, instead of just getting the charm. If it's off, I'll get the charm. If it's on, I get the item. And if it is on, it becomes a check. And that's what we refer to as items, basically. Location checks. And that's what this page is giving you, a nice, easy to use user interface that lets you hit yes or no to random things. And basically, you just kind of want to pick the things you're most comfortable with. There are some games that have built-in skips that are in the logic. So logic, the way a randomizer works is randomizers are always based on literal logic that forces it to not be impossible. So there are cases where games have scenarios where you're forced to do this in a certain order in order to get this item, etc., etc. And in this game's case, in Hollow Knight, you can kind of enable skips to get some stuff in the unintended order. But this is quite a game-specific thing. I'm just kind of explaining how logic works, right? So no seed can be impossible, and you're expected at some point to get all the checks in your game to ensure that someone else in the multi-world that we're playing gets important items for their game. There are hints in the game, in the multi-world, so you can get a hint, and that hint will tell you information about a randomized item. You can even pay for hints using hint points, which I will talk about a little bit more later. But essentially, when you get a check, you can build up hint points, and you can hint whatever you want. Alright, I think that kind of covers it for my big yap here about how randomizers work, and how the APWorld work, and how the site works, and all that. Alright, cool. Alright, it's going to teach you how to set up the world on your own computer and to test it, basically. So I'm assuming at this point, you maybe either have your YAML file, or you need to get it, but you have at least the world and the game decided you want to play. So you go to the website. If it's on a website, I recommend checking here first for a game you want to play, and then go to the APWorld index to see everything else. It is easier to set up games from here, because there's even setup guides on the website you can even view, and that's pretty easy, right? Anyway, getting ahead of myself, options page, and in here you set all your settings. Whatever, I'm gonna click export options, and we got Bob's settings. All right, so here we are, and this is my YAML file, and I want to place the YAML file in the players folder. Now that it's in here, everything's basically done. All I have to do is scroll down to archipelago generate.exe, and it's going to generate the world, and it ends up in the output folder. Output folder contains, this is the AP world. Even if I open it up, you can kind of see it. And here we've got the spoiler log and this thing right here. Ignore that. So let's set up the game now. So now we go to the Archipelago, we click this Archipelago up here, start playing, host or pre-generate the game, upload file, select your output you just made, create a new room, and we're here. So this is the multi-world lobby, and all the players and all the games will be listed here, including download links for your ROM. Modified ROM just be playing like classic games. So if you're playing a game for the SNES, you'll need to click this to download your patch file, and you'll need to use that to set up your game. Of course, this is all information that you can find for your specific game from the Discord channel, from the AP index list, or just from this website in general. If your game happens to be on here, there's a setup guide for each game. So now I need to connect to the game with my client. So for Hat in Time specifically, I need to go to the Archipelago folder, open up a Hat in Time client, and I'll bring up this very important interface. This interface will be used for doing hint points later, and for a lot of games, it's also required to even connect to the server in general, like a Hat in Time. So I've already set the port here. It's 64079. I'm gonna hit it, and now it's asking me for a slot name. My slot name is just Bob, and now I'm in. So now if I open a Hat in Time, I can immediately start playing. It's all great, and I can do hints. So a hint costs 22 points. I have 0 points. This gets increased points. I get more points each check I do, and when I get enough points, I can do a hint for any item I want, and I can do this all within the client. There is something called the text client, which is this exact same thing. I'm gonna literally open it right now just to show it. So this is, I want to note, this is not a game-specific client. This is the text client. so I can join the server with the same thing. So now I'm in, this is the client for text, this is the client for the game itself. So in a Hat in Time's case, I can just use the client as both my interface to do hints and to talk to people in the chat, and also to connect to the game. But in a lot of games, for example, Thousand Year Door, if I were to play that, I cannot type hints unless I am in the text client. So a lot of games, you want to enter the text client, which is also, again, it's in the Archipelago folder. You can even do it from the launcher. And you do exactly what I just did. You enter your slot and the port. And now I can do the exact same thing and do hints and talk to people in chat. So in my case, I'm all done now. I'm ready to play a Hat in Time. However, not every game has the convenience of being on the website. And there are some APWorld games that even if you go to the GitHub for... So this here, for example, is the Thousand Year Door. And this does not have a YAML file I can download from the assets folder, which means I need to generate it from my own Archipelago install. This is easy. You just, as you would normally have to anyway, install the APWorld, which we'll say it has successfully, but weird for me because I've already done it before, but this message shouldn't pop up. You should get a successful message. And now, in the Archipelago launcher, I'm going to scroll all the way down to generate template options. By the way, the Archipelago launcher is in the folder. You click this and you open this up. Scroll all the way down, generate template options. This will open up a new folder which contains all the YAMLs that are both on the website and from APWorld you've locally installed through the index. And now if I scroll down to Thousand Year Door, which is right here, I can open it up. And oh my god, my notepad. Oh my god, it's so bad. Okay, sorry about that. Here, this is what it looks like when you have to edit a text file to set up your settings. So it's not as nice as the website, but it's still not that bad. You scroll down to this point, is the most important part. You need to set your name. So this is going to be Bob TTYD. And ignore all the hashtags. The hashtags are basically just telling you like information without it actually being stuff you need to edit. So this tells you information about what settings do. So for example, chapter clears right here. Tells me how many chapters I need to be enter the Palace of Shadow. And I'm going to leave this but for now. But I want to look at Tattle Sanity. So Tattle Sanity is an option where I can make it so every enemy is being tattled. Now, I want this on so I can get more items in the game. So if I want it on, I have to make sure that the true is set to 50 and the false is set to 0. So you just edit the lines here. So this is set to, it's basically just the same as true or false, right? So this is now false because it's 0 and this is true because it's 50. That's what the text is telling you if it's on or off. So I can just do this for anything, right? Limit chapter logic, sure, I want that on. False, limit chapter 8, I do want to do that, so I'm going to keep this at false. So that's literally how this works. You just keep scrolling until you do all this, and it should work. Now, there are instances where you need to edit text before the number. And this, for example, starting HP, how much HP do I want to start with? So in this game, I would like to start with 25 HP, I think, for TTYD. So I just change this number from 10 to 25. I don't change this number to 25. I make this 50 and this 25 because this is the actual value. So you kind of just need to like get like an eye for like understand, okay, this is starting FP. This, I want it to be 50. But for example, this, if I want to choose a partner I want to start with Yoshi. So I'll turn off starting with Goombella and make this Yoshi. So it's the same as the website. You just have to do some typing, but it's not that bad. And then you can click save. And now we have this YAML file. I'm going to cut this back into here. Place what I already have, because that was my test earlier. I'm going to name this Bob TTYD. So this is our Hat in Time that I did earlier, and this is Thousand Year Door. Obviously, in your case, you just want to test one game at a time, just to make sure you can connect and play. I'm going to skip the connecting part for TTYD, but just going to prove if I click generate now, I will generate the world, and then I can plot this into the website. And here we are. So, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, I'm set up in the world, and I can do whatever I need to connect to the world in Thousand Year Door, which requires whatever steps it is, because that's game dependent. Okay, so I'm here one last time, talking about 3 different things, And the first thing I'm going to talk about is elaborating more on hints. So earlier I mentioned that you can get a certain amount of hint points by getting checks, and when you accumulate enough points, you can ask for a hint. And to be completely precise, a hint basically just means you can spend points to find out where any item you want is. And so if I type, hint right here, I'm going to be told that a hint costs 86 points, and I have 0 points. So every time I get a check, that goes up by 1 until I can reach 86 points. Now, I will say 86 points is quite a lot because this is a game like OOT, and that has a lot of checks. But I will lower the hint cost in our server, so we're going to have like 7% hint cost. So, for example, now OOT should cost like around 20 or something. Okay, it costs 30. Costs 30 points now for a hint. So that's pretty reasonable. You can expect your game to be around like 20 hint points. So every 20 checks, you can hint for any item you want. Pretty reasonable, I think. It'll be less or more depending on your game and how much settings you put in. Because it's math, something based on how many checks are in the game, whatever. So, and let's just try that right now I'm going to quickly make my hint cost to 0. So, now that I've set my hint cost to 0, I'm going to demonstrate how exactly you share hints with other people and what you do in the Discord. Our Discord, the sewer Discord. So I'm going to type hint, and I'm going to look up for, what's like a one-of-a-kind item? Let me look at Minuet of Forest. So the Minuet of Forest is in a Hollow Knight world at the Wanderer's Journal Pleasure House. So what I do is I can click this, and when I click it, it adds it to my clipboard, and I can just head to the Discord and post it in here. So now this is what it looks like, and then I would ping the person like so about the item. And that lets them know that, hey, this is really important item for me is in your world at this location. Just let that person knows. That's the plan, essentially. And you can even check all your available hints you found in here. So I have all the hints that are relevant to your user on the text client. So this text client is connected to my Ocarina of Time slot. So only the hints I've done or hints other people have done that are relevant to OOT show up in here. So my magic meter is something I already have a default hint for, and I already know that's in this place also in Hollow Knight. But for example, JC has Surf also as a hint he's done, and it tells me that because he's hinted Surf, that if I go to Lon Lon Ranch Deku Scrub, I will find Surf. And so he would type this and he would go, hey bitch, this. And I would go, all right, that's cool. And I would do that. So that's the plan, really. It's pretty simple. Now I'm going to talk about what happens when you're stuck. So in Randomizer, you're probably going to end up in a situation where you can't do anything because you run out of checks and you run out of things to do, and you're just waiting on someone else to find you an item so you can proceed. This is totally normal and expected because it's a asynchronous giant multi-world. It's not meant to be beaten quickly, so you're expected to eventually run into a point where you're stuck. Now, what we say, well, for some reason the Archipelago server says when you are stuck is you're in BK mode, which is called Burger King. You go into Burger King, you're stuck. I guess I'm done. I'm gonna get some food, get some dog shit food. So that's what I might say, or someone might say, like, I'm in BK mode, dude. I can't explore. I can't do anything else. But hey, I've hinted that what I need to proceed, the Minuet of Forest, is in your world. So when you get me this, I'll be out of BK mode. Like, that's like a hypothetical scenario. That's kind of what they say in the Archipelago Discord. Obviously, we don't have to act, the exact way they do. They're a bunch of chumps anyway. But yes, you will end up in situations where you can't play anymore. And this is called BK mode. And that almost about wraps it up. The only other thing I want to mention is that you can submit as many worlds as you want. I'm going to be submitting a lot myself. So, we want this to last longer than last time, hopefully. So you could just submit one if you're comfortable with that. But you can submit more if you think you have the free time for it. And that's it. I hope this was easy enough to follow and understand. This was obviously timed in conjunction with the wheel announcement, but this isn't necessarily related to the wheel. You can do just this and not the wheel just fine. It's just something I wanted to share on top of the other exciting announcement. And, well, that's all for me. I'm done. I'm finished. I mean, do you have anything to say at all? Do you have anything valuable to
No,
add?
but never mind. I was gonna say something really bad.
Like your penis is really big or something?
Yeah, something along those lines.
Avery's got a big, wet, oily butt.